People's Radio United.
Hey, we're here on the 32nd episode of My Non-Objective Opinion. I'm Tim Best Buds, and I'm here with William, whose online tag is at Film the Police LA. I believe he's on Twitter and Instagram. How you doing, William?
How's it going, man?
All right. So yeah, today we're here to talk about filming the police, and we both do it, but we do it in different ways. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. But before we get started, I'm going to keep checking all the levels now that we're live real quick. But maybe you can tell everybody kind of like who you are and what you do and why you do it. Nothing too personal, just whatever you're comfortable with. But as far as filming the police and activism in general.
Yeah, I just basically go around. If I see a stop or any sort of police activity, I film them. If they do a good job, I go about my business. And if I see them do something that's out of policy or incorrect, I write complaints on them. Just trying to hold them accountable for what I see is a lot of misconduct that goes on a regular basis.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
But so yeah, you're a lot more professional. You do it the right way. Like I did a video once explaining how to film police the proper way, and I pretty much described what you do. But like as far as safety, when you go out there, what do you think of as far as safety and all that?
Well, I don't think there's a wrong way to film the police. I think once you have a camera on the cops, they're going to act differently. Even if you're mimicking filming the police, it's going to make the police act differently. So my thing is, as long as you're there, if you see a stop, if you see police activity, if you see cops and they have their lights on, if you see somebody handcuffed, if you see somebody chained against the wall, stand there and film or pretend you're filming. And it's going to change the way that they act. A lot of the times. Not all the times, but a lot of the times. So, like I said, there isn't a wrong way to film the police. There are ways that some people go about it that I may disagree with. Me personally, I want to file complaints. I don't want to make a scene of it. I don't care about making a show of it. Sometimes it just kind of happens. But at the end of the day, I just want to hold them accountable. I got started doing this because in a lot of ways, I thought police misconduct or claims of police misconduct were overblown. I thought that only because I was blind. I would see police activity. I'd see a stop, and I would just kind of keep on going about my business. And I'm ashamed to say this. I would just assume that, hey, you know what? They must have done something wrong. And I felt that way for years. I lived in California now for 20 years. Started off living in Long Beach, then in Brentwood, back to Long Beach, then in Hollywood. And I never really had, me personally, any issues with the cops, at least not until, say, a few years ago. Just little things. I do a lot of running. I like running early in the morning, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And here I am wearing, you know how a runner looks. They wear little running shorts with a reflector vest and a reflector hat. And I go out for a run and I have some cop pulling up next to me and say, "Where are you going?" "What does it fucking look like I'm going? I'm going running. Why are you bothering me?" So then I got annoyed with that. So I would just turn my light on my camera and flash a light in their face back at them and pretend like I'm recording, and they would just tear off. So I thought that was instructive, the fact that they responded to what they thought was me recording. And it kind of progressed from there. One night, my girlfriend, she was sort of she likes taking the bus. She doesn't like driving for whatever reason. She's an environmentalist, let's say that. And I would walk her to the bus stop early in the morning, and a cop would pull up next to me and say, "Hey, where are you going? Where do you know her from?" Implying that somehow she's a prostitute. Implying because I'm a black guy walking out there at 5 o'clock in the morning with this woman, that somehow I'm a John picking up a prostitute. And obviously I resent that. So things like that really started pissing me off. Granted, if we go way back, I'm actually from New York. There's some brutal fucking cops in New York, and I've had some bad experiences in New York. So when I came out here and I didn't have these bad experiences, I thought that was how it was in general. I thought that, like I said, I thought, these claims of the LAPD being rotten may be overblown. But then I started seeing these things, the attitudes I started seeing, or what I felt were, these prejudices that they had. And it progressed from there. Finally, it got to the point where I think my girlfriend filed a complaint against a cop. I can't even remember what it was about. I remember the process was ridiculous. It took like a year. They showed up at our house, rather than call her, they showed up at our house knocking at the door, which I felt was, implied intimidation. And then the final disposition was a joke. And so that really stuck with me. I'm like, this process is fucking bullshit. You can't hold these guys accountable.
Yeah.
And then we had, the whole George Floyd thing, right? So at first, I was, the first couple of nights of the riots, I was out there like trying to protect my block. My neighbor, he saved up for his car. He saved a lot of money to get a Tesla for a sales job or whatever. He didn't have money, but he saved up for it and he's got his car smashed up. So the first couple of nights I was just going out there and I'm, really my main intentions were going out there to protect my block, to keep things from getting smashed up. And like the second night I'm out there and I see everybody running. I see protesters running. I see looters running. I see photographers and other media running.
I might have been one of them motherfuckers running.
Hey, I mean, it was wild out there. I'm not a lot scares me. But at that moment, I was like, this shit is a little wild. I'm sitting in my car, and I'm like, and then the next thing I know, I hear...
I'm sorry, I was going to say, were you in L.A. in 92, or no?
No, I came to L.A. right around 9/11.
Oh, okay, so you missed 92.
I missed the real...
this was nothing compared to that, man.
I can imagine.
Go ahead, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Everybody's told me. Yeah, but anyway, then I started hearing the sirens. I'm like, I'm sitting in my car. These cops going to come around the corner. They're going to see me in a car. They're going to think I'm somehow like stealing it or whatever. So I said, let me get out of my car and get back to my house, which is a half a block away. Next thing I know, the sheriffs are coming around my block. I'm not used to seeing sheriffs because I technically live in Hollywood. The sheriffs come around my block and they're just popping off pepper ball shots everywhere. And I get to my gate and he pulls up right there and he's about to just hit me. I just kind of flex my back, just ready to take the shot. But I'm like, I can get in my gate fast enough. I hit the code, and like the one time I got it wrong, I just busted under pressure. I'm like, I'm going to get hit. And I look back, and there was a van that was in the way that was preventing him from hitting me. So anyway, he couldn't shoot. I got in my gate. But I hear him tear off down the block. I go out, and I look outside, and I see police had like, I don't even know, cornered, kettled some kids from 3 different directions. Now, these kids were literally just running away. They were leaving where the action was going. You're trying to get them out of Hollywood. They are leaving Hollywood. But the point for them was not to force them out. They just wanted to just let off on them. So they circled around them and they just let off. It sounded like machine guns. Just blasted these kids. And then I looked as one of the cops drove right through the fucking crowd. And next thing I know, there's a kid in front of my gate. He's on the ground. He can't walk. He's laying there. And I go walking up to him. I'm looking at him. He must have been like 16, looking at his braces. He looks up to me, and the first thing he says to me, he says, I thought this was supposed to be a nonviolent. And it affected me, And I saw blood. His hand was bleeding. We pulled him inside the gate. Some of my neighbors who I wouldn't think would normally be helpful in a situation like that had come out, bandaged the kid up, giving him water or whatnot. And he needed to be bandaged up. The kid couldn't walk. And I'm thinking, how am I going to get this kid out of here? I asked him, where are you from? He said, he's from Long Beach. I'm like, fuck, now I'm going to have to drive him all the way to Long Beach. I'm going to have to get from here to the freeway. So I'm like, he's going to have to be here for a while. I said, where are your friends? You have a phone? He didn't have any answers. I go outside my gate, maybe 45 minutes later. It's funny because as all this was going on, I see a white guy. He's standing. There's this complete chaos with the cops shooting things up. And this white guy appears with a vest on and a camera. He was out there as a photographer wearing some khakis. And he's like, hey, it's a crazy night out here, huh? And what he was really saying is, please come inside your gate because I'm scared to death. So I'm like, come on in here. And he was just telling me the things that were going on, telling me it was a wild scene. He said he was trying to get out of there. Yeah. He was waiting on an Uber, and all the Ubers were canceling, so nobody could leave. So he had the curfew. Everybody had to leave, but there wasn't a way for anybody to leave a half an hour beforehand. And so the police just let off him.
Before they canceled?
Before the curfew.
I was gonna say
Yeah,
before
they had a
the
curfew.
no, I know, but before the Uber canceled, I know because I was there on the streets, people was trying to get out of there. The Ubers was charging
Yeah.
like $50 to $80 to come get motherfuckers.
Yeah, so you had this curfew where you tell them they have to leave. People were trying to actually leave. They were flowing away from the Hollywood and Vine, Sunset and Vine area, moving south, moving west. They were leaving, and to purposely go after them, kettle them, and just let off on them, it was punitive. They were just having their fun, and they looked like they were having their fun. They were hanging out the window of the car, the passenger seat, just letting off on them. And that moment right there affected me because I have never been so damn pissed off in my life,
Yeah,
And I was like,
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
that moment changed me. At that moment, I was like, you know what? I had enough. I went out protesting, and anytime I saw a skirmish line, I got to be right in the cop's face. I didn't even know what I was doing. I was just mad as fuck. And I was just whatever, and if we could break through the skirmish line, then good. Let's take it. Any little win or perceived win I wanted. I was just pissed off. But at the end of the day, it wasn't good enough because, what can you do? At the end of the day, you can only go but so far protesting. It's only going to do but so much. The way I look at it, it's like a football game. It's the pep rally. But you got to go out there and do something. So my thing is, I was like, how can I get these cops back? I know they're doing misconduct. I know there's misconduct. How do I prove it? It's not easy to prove. I'm like, it's not like I could just watch them on a police stop and they would do misconduct in my face. So I was like, you know what? These guys never wear their fucking mask. I have a neighbor who's a cop. I've never seen him in a mask ever, not one fucking time. And he's, like I said, he's a cop. He's a local cop. I filmed his ass out there at work without his mask on. So it used to infuriate me. He used to have his little illegal parties. And so I knew they were terrible with masks, and it pissed me off because I've had COVID. And my thing is, I handled it well because I thought I was in shape enough to handle it well. I can't imagine somebody who's not in shape, how they would be able to handle that. Because to this day, I still feel like I'm still recovering in some ways. So I took it seriously, and they don't. The cops never do. And not only that, it's about respect. When I come to somebody else's house, whether they're fine with me wearing a hat or not, I take my hat off out of respect because I don't know what their rules are. So I want to show them that respect. These cops are not from our communities. When they come in here, they should abide by the rules, which means wearing a fucking mask in public so you don't get the people sick, especially since they're the ones who come in contact with the public nonstop. They may come in contact with 100 people per day. So if they have COVID, they could be spreading it to 100 people per day. And then out of just basic decency, why don't they want to protect their family? So I didn't, it infuriated me that they weren't wearing a mask. I knew I could write them up for that. And I didn't see how if I videotape this cop for 5 minutes without his mask, how could they go through a complaint review and say, you know what? No, he's not guilty. Of course he's guilty. And there's no way around it. Is he going to get in trouble? No, he's not going to get in trouble. But they have to say, you know what, this is a sustained complaint. So I said, I'm going to go around and start filming these cops without their mask. And it's not hard. Every stop I would go on, I would see them. But as I watched these stops, I would see other things happening. I didn't realize that the misconduct would be so in your face. For the first few months I'm filming, 95% of all stops are Black and Hispanic people. And 95% of all those stops, they were handcuffed and the car was searched. That's not normal, and it's not right, and it's not in policy. And it's
it is normal and it's not right.
Right.
I'm from here. They've been doing this before there was cameras, man. They've been doing this forever. They LAPD been crooked. Two things I just want to go back real quick about the corruption. I don't know if you know who Alex Salazar is. He's a activist now, but he used to be a Rampart cop. And if anyone doesn't know about Rampart and that whole scandal back in the day, look it up. I did a couple of shows with him, and man, it goes so much deeper than most people than I ever imagined. And second of all, I've been to a million protests, and I've been to a whole too many uprisings to count. And I've never been to a peaceful to an uprising that started off as a peaceful protest where the police didn't start shit. And I'm talking about at regular ass, just rap shows where everyone's just chilling, all the way up to protests. The police come in and instigate and turn everything into a riot. And I think it's
I don't think
intended.
people truly understand that either. I think if you've never seen the police in action, and let's say around black people, people may think that's hyperbole, that you're overstating the case, but it's not. It's not the case. I mean, they come in there and they purposely start trouble. Yeah, even just, I was over at Echo Park the other week. That whole incident was so ridiculous in my eyes. It was ridiculous. Yes, they had strobe lights. Deal with it. I get you. These motherfuckers flash lights in my face all day long. All right.
Yep. I've had standoffs with them.
Sympathy for me.
I've had standoffs with cops. We both shining lights in each other's eyes, and I'm like, I'll turn mine off when you turn yours off. You need to turn the light off. I'll turn mine off when you turn, and then turn his off. And he's like, turn it off. I'm like, no. I hate them pigs.
Thing is, my approach is I've never shined a light in their face, or at least not on purpose. Maybe when I first turn on my phone to film, the light might come on for a second. I turn it off, but I've never done it. They'll just sit there and do dead ass into my face, and I'm fine with it because my thing is whenever they do that, I'm just recording it. All I'm thinking is complain.
They're aiming for your camera, not your face. I'm sure you know that.
Of course. Of course.
Did you see?
They're trying to flare out the camera.
There's a new tactic a lot of these pigs are doing now. I noticed. I haven't had it happen to me at all because I don't monetize anything I do, but a lot of cats do. And these pigs are playing. They're playing copyrighted music over their phones toward the camera to try to get the stream taken down for a copyright violation.
I mean,
I've seen a lot of videos like that.
The cops are so worried about you seeing or documenting how they do their job that they're going to such extremes to try to get your shit taken down. I mean, it's a shame. Like I always say, if I go over here to the gas station, I just walked into the gas station a little while ago, and there were cameras. There were 4 cameras going on, watching the register. Those guys at the register and women are being filmed all day long. If I go to the convenience store, they're being filmed all day long. If I go to the bank, they're being filmed all day long. If I go to Starbucks, they're being filmed all day long. But somehow police can't handle being filmed for 5 minutes here and there while they do their jobs. And, it's not like they're standing at a register, just making transactions. They're actually having their guns pulled out in situations that can go left really easily. So, of course, these should be documented, but they don't want that documented. And why? Why is that? If you're a professional, you should have no problem with it. I know there are a few cops, quite honestly, I feel like they pose for the cameras. They love it. But you know what? They usually stay in policy. So if you are going to stay in policy, what do you have a problem with? These guys are the same ones who are saying, oh, bring back cops. How dare you cancel it? Well, let's show you what the cops are really doing. Why do you have a problem being filmed now? Because the cops usually love, defending those cops.
You know what? I don't know, man. Them shows are intrusive. I'm going to tell you something real quick. This is what happened to me. One of the worst nights of my life. I got shot 5 times, 9 bullet wounds. I'm laid out on the ground. They came, sorry. They came with the cops came first. They questioned me, who shot you? Who shot you? Fuck you, man. Fuck you. Get me an ambulance, man. Everybody shot up all over the place, right? So the ambulance comes and a camera crew comes with I don't know if it was kind of hazy, but eventually a camera crew shows up. All in my face. These cats is cutting off my clothes. I got holes all in me, blood everywhere. And in my mentality back then, it was like I got caught slipping. That's how my mind was back then. I wasn't like, holy shit, I got caught. I'm like, I'm on camera slipping. You know what I'm saying? Motherfuckers gonna see me and think, oh man, probably like late teens, early 20s. Yeah, so my mentality was like that. So anyway, there's these camera crews there. I didn't know who it was or what it was. I was trying to kick the camera, but I lost too much blood. So eventually I passed out and that was over. Months and months later, after I was able to walk again, it took me 6 months to be able to walk again after this shit. Months and months later, I get a call from the LAPD producers. There used to be a show called LAPD Life on the Beat or something. He wants to tell my story to the world. It was just like a bastardized cop show. You could probably look it up and see. It's just a rip-off of cops. So they were the ones out there filming people. And all in my face, you know what I mean? All in my face, didn't give a fuck about my privacy, didn't give a fuck I was getting medical shit done, anything like that. All in my face, and they're gonna say, oh, we're even willing to offer you money to tell your story. on national television. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to do that, you know, because like I said, my mentality was I got caught slipping. So these motherfuckers say, we'll pay you $50. I said, do I look like a crackhead to you? And then, you know, and they're like, they're like, well, how much would it take? I said, man, it would take more than you have. You have paid me millions of dollars. I ain't gonna show my ass laid out in the street. Fuck you. Well, we can still blur your face legally, they said. I said, do what you got to do. Fuck y'all. And hung up on them. But see, they were with the police. They came in. They were paid. They were working with the police on the side. Nobody gave a fuck because if shit went down, they delete whatever footage the cops told them to. And I've told stories about other shit like this too that I've dealt with. Cause now I work in entertainment and I've dealt with shit with police.
So these were stringers? These were stringer types?
These were just a big production company. It was just, you know, they come with, but yeah, then the producer calls and wants to edit out the footage, you know, and show my face and talk about it, maybe use my name. I don't know. But it didn't happen in the end. But it was just like, when I go to film the police, they do anything in their power to get me the hell up off the block. I mean, I've had 2 cops take yellow tape, pull it out, and start pressing up against me and walking out just to get me away. Everyone else can stay there but me, you know, because I got the camera. But these big corporations and media can just go up in anywhere they want, talk to them, be cool, because they know they're going to tell the story they want. It's not going to be reality. My cameras don't delete shit. My cameras don't say, oh, oops, you didn't see what you thought you saw. That's the difference.
LAPD is very selective with, and that's one of my beefs right now. They're very selective with how they handle the media. And what I see them doing right now, it's just criminal what they're doing with the media. And if you're an activist in LA, it's important that you recognize this. And this, you know, quite honestly, it has to be handled. It can't go on like this. The media is there to provide information to the public so we can make informed decisions about policy and politics in general. And if the LAPD, and I feel working with certain politicians, but if the LAPD feels that it can intimidate certain members of the media, not recognize certain members of the media, then they're controlling the narrative and they're controlling information, and it's just not right. We have a right to know what the hell they're doing. We pay them a ton of fucking money. You know, they get 54% of our discretionary budget. You know, I was looking at the numbers last week. They're getting over $147,000 a piece in average pay in 2020. Come on, it's ridiculous. What are we doing here? And any pushback against that is met with a total fight because, again, they try to control the narrative. What I saw happen in Echo Park the other day was just ridiculous. Did you need 400 cops for that? I laughed at what I saw. And then it became a situation where the cops were trying to justify their response by manufacturing some sort of conflict that just wasn't there. You know,
do you know during the time? Did you know during the time Echo Park was going on, they cleared a whole crap load of other encampments across the city. Nobody talked about that shit. I can only imagine.
Really?
Dude, I've been looking, like, I've been trying to find people that are missing now. Like, I don't think the government sweeped them up. I think they had to move, though, and I don't know where they had to move to. These are people I see all the time, every day, and I try to make sure they're okay, whatever. Now they're missing, you know? It's fucked up. It's not like just their tents missing or anything or just their shit. The whole block is cleared out. Nobody's there. And it happened one night between the time I went to work one day and came back and the time I went to work the next day. So within a couple hours,
you know what bothers me about that is because people treat the unhoused like, you know, there's some sort of scum. Like there's some sort of degenerate, they're all deviants and stuff. And I think about the relationships, the people I've known for years that I don't see anymore. And these are people that are quite honestly the most interesting people I've ever met in my life. You know, I think there's one guy, Marlon. You know, this guy is the most, I used to see him at Starbucks all the time. He's one of those people that just like talks too much, so you try to avoid. You don't want to make eye contact because he's just going to talk your head off. And then one day I started talking to him, and he was just so interesting. You know, he's just telling me about all his experiences and whatnot. I knew there was a mental health issue there. But at the same time, this guy was just fascinating. And his personality, he's the type of guy that, I think about this, I've known him for probably 10 years now, or 8 years. and he's been unhoused, or as he says, a man of the outdoors. I've never heard him complain about his situation. All he does is offer compliments. He's like, "Oh, William, you've lost so much weight. You look great. You're doing fantastic." And this is who's
There's so many beautiful people out there, man.
Yeah.
Like amazing people. There's smart people. There's geniuses. There's every kind of person you can imagine. But it takes its toll, man. And mental illness just comes with it. And some people want to numb shit. And they do a lot of drugs.
That's another thing. I wonder myself. I'm not an expert on this. This is actually a very new issue for me. All right. But I wonder if I was out on the streets living there for a couple of years, wouldn't that bring on some sort of mental illness to sit there and think that they're out there because of mental illness? Sometimes I wonder if it creates it. I'm sure there's studies on this. I have to look into it. I'm sure probably people rolling their eyes like, oh, of course, there's the answer to this. But yeah. I mean, that's hard living, man.
Well, I mean, I think it's both. We have no healthcare for mental illness, or it's crap what we do have. And then, like I said, just being out there, man, and you can't leave your stuff. Imagine if you leave your house and it can get robbed anytime or taken by some dump truck, or, the cops out there. People are on the streets. I've seen cars crash into tents before, man. You got people that want to murder you, that believe you should be murdered because you're so dirty and filthy and scummy and whatever. And to keep a job out there, imagine you have to get up, find a place to shower, be able to get across the city. It's when people live in their cars, what happens? The cops come and take their cars eventually because they can't pay to register, they can't afford this or that, or want to park somewhere, So I've seen cops come and wipe out a whole block of cars and trucks and campers, man. Make people leave, tow what they can. It's just foul, man. It's so foul.
See, it's new to me. So to see 400 cops show up to Echo Park, I was trying to get in there, and when I got there, I couldn't. They set up police lines, and I couldn't get past.
I've seen 200 cops protect 20 or 30 Nazis, man. Literal swastika wearing Nazis, not Trump. This was years before Trump. 200, 300 cops to protect like 20 or less Nazis, maybe 30. That's how insane the cops are, man. I've never been out there and had 200 or 300 cops ever. I had one cop protect me ever. Cops let people threaten me all day. But when the cops leave, they turn bitch every time. Never fails.
Yeah, that's just the way it is. But yeah, overall, the police response in general, with everything that I see, is over the top. And so, I look at policing two ways, right? When there's a police shooting, there's a lot of activism around it. And people are handling that. I'm trying to focus on the stops themselves. I want to expose what's happening at 2:00 in the morning on a back street somewhere in LA, what's really going on when nobody's looking.
Yeah.
And because to me, until we take care of that, we're not going to stop all the police shootings where there's racial bias involved. It's got to be started at the ground level. And it's going to take, I look at some of this data, okay? Every year, hundreds and hundreds of racial bias complaints are filed. Every year. And every year, 0 are sustained. 0. There has never been a racial bias complaint sustained against the LAPD. And that's a joke. We all know that's a joke. Are you trying to say that there has never been a case where a cop has used racial bias? But then we look at the data overall. So, I guess it was maybe 6 months ago, the Inspector General of the LAPD had done an audit of the stops in LA during 2019. They looked at all the stop data, and then they went and cross-examined it, I guess, looking at video. And what they found was astonishing. Quite honestly, what they found is exactly what I had been preaching for months, what I had been saying for forever, or when I say forever, since I first started cop watching, is that police are disproportionately pulling over Black and Hispanic people. And the way they handle those stops are completely different than how they handle white people. I would say for the first 400 stops that I filmed, maybe 6 were initiated against people who are white. 400. Granted, Hollywood is only 5% black. It's 43, 42% white, about the same Hispanic. But these are all people of color. When I say 95% who were pulled over, they weren't all black. They were Hispanic too, but mostly black. Now, granted, it's over off of Hollywood Boulevard. So you're going to have a higher percentage of black people over there. It's just a place where black people congregate. But still, those numbers are just completely disproportionate with how the community is made up. But then to see how they were handled differently. I had never seen a white person handcuffed. I'd never seen them pulled out of their car. Never. But it was routine to see, okay, you know what? You failed to use your right turn signal. We're going to pull all the occupants out of the car, or a single occupant. We're going to put them against the wall. We're going to handcuff them. We are going to pat them down, and then we're going to go through their car. And it's not just that they go ahead and search the car or search the trunk. It's they're going to check the wheel wells. They're going to lift up the hood and check the engine block. Okay? And so I couldn't understand this. I was like, this is incredibly intrusive, obviously. And this is, when I look at these numbers, the numbers tell the story. The data tells the story itself. Black and Hispanic people are being are being targeted for search and handcuffing disproportionately. And I've been saying it over and over again. And I felt like, quite honestly, the Hollywood station was just kind of blowing it off. It's, no big deal. But then the OIG, the Inspector General, comes out with their audit of hundreds of thousands of stops and said exactly what I had been saying all along, that Black and Hispanic people had been disproportionately handcuffed, searched, had extended post-stop activity. These stops don't just take 5 minutes. They take 45 minutes. So we're talking about Postmates drivers and Uber Eats drivers who are going to get their orders. They get stopped for the tiniest reasons. They're handcuffed, searched. It takes 45 minutes. They lose that order. They get a bad review. The night is fucked up. And for what? And why are they doing this? And then here's another thing I noticed. All these stops, I had seen so few people actually arrested. They were all let go. Or not even that. Majority of the time, they weren't even issued a ticket. So my thing is, how do we get to a point where here we have a driving infraction that was not even serious enough to warrant having a ticket issued, but yet we have them handcuffed? I mean, this has been going on. I watched this. I guess it was Friday night. It happened right in front of my face. Guy gets pulled over for a driving infraction. Everybody's ordered out of the car. The cop has his gun unholstered. He's standing behind his door, giving orders them against the fence, comes over and handcuffs them. And for what? At the end of the day, they gave him a warning. How do we get from an infraction that they're going to get a warning to this point where they have guns pulled? And a specific cop I'm thinking about on Friday night, I've been saying for a long time that when there is a shooting, an officer involved shooting in Hollywood, he's the first one I'm going to think of that was involved, because he's ready for it. I see how he is. I've been watching him for months. He is overly aggressive. He's a little kid. The worst part is the dangerous ones are the kids, the young ones. They're just playing video games out there. A lot of older ones, they've been through it or whatever, and they just want to get their shit over with and go home at the end of the day and get their overtime in, so they go ahead and have their retirement and fucking open up their sports bar and whatever. These young kids, they want to play fucking video games, and they're aggressive, and they're just looking for any reason. And so those are the ones
gang bangers.
Literally. And
state-sponsored gangbangers there.
And the funny thing is, I'm talking mostly about Hollywood cops. These are the most tame cops there are in LA. Quite honestly, you leave Hollywood, it gets a whole lot worse. Like I said, I grew up in New York. And when I think of the most brutal cops, I think of the NYPD. They're just fucking brutal. When I think of the second most brutal cops I've ever seen, it's the sheriff's department. And then there's a whole gap, and we get to number 100 most brutal cops. It's the Hollywood cops. These guys, they're the least scary cops there are. You leave here, it gets a whole lot worse than what I see here. What I see here is shit. It gets a lot worse. When I go to Southwest, when I go to Rampart and Newton, they do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah.
Whatever they want.
Southeast, man, all them pigs out there, man, they worse than the gangsters out there. For real, I'm not even joking when I say that. They're
And
more
it's funny
brutal.
because that stands out. I remember being in a protest, and it was like the 101 in Hollywood Boulevard, and somebody was in front of a barber shop, and they were holding a sign, and it said, "The police are the real thugs." And it just always stuck with me in my head, because I was like, that's funny. But from what I see, yeah, I mean, people might think that's hyperbole. I'm generally a pretty, like, I'm not going to make outrageous claims unless I can feel like I can back it up. When I hear certain words, sometimes I even still cringe. But that's not hyperbole. These cops, they act that way. They do what they want. The common tactic now is, after they handcuff people and search and all that, and they let them go, they tell them, stand against the wall, face the wall until you hear us drive away. That's some gang shit. That's not what professional police officers should be saying.
That's what motherfuckers that just robbed you with ski masks on say.
Exactly. That's exactly what I heard as a kid when I got robbed. And this is standard procedure. This is not something that they're just saying here. I have video of them doing this. They just openly do this. I mean, what are we doing here? And you think that's not going to cause all sort of resentment in the community? And that's another thing. I look at these tactics. All right. So I know what the police are doing. They're doing a lot of what they call pretextual stops. They look for the slightest reasons to pull people over so they can get into the car to search for serious contraband. Okay. And mostly guns. Right now, they feel that, murders are up, gun violence is up. So therefore, what we need to do is we need to have more stops and search for guns. That's one way of trying to address the problem. What the Inspector General found is that in doing this, only 2% of the time do they find serious contraband, which means it's highly ineffective. It means like 2 out of every 100 of these stops, you're finding contraband. That means 98% of the time, you're pissing people off. You're being incredibly intrusive. You're violating them, or at least they're feeling violated. See, these cops, they do this. They go ahead and search through your shit, toss your car, completely. These people feel completely profiled and violated. And the cops, they just go on about their business to the next stop. These people have go through it. Their night's ruined. The weekend is ruined. Their week is ruined. They're complaining to their friends. They hate cops after that. And now their friends hate cops. Their families hate cops because of what they just put you through. I'm talking about, I've seen things like, grown people out with dresses and suits on, and they get to they make a right-hand turn at a red without coming to an absolute complete stop, a little bit of a California roll. But the next thing you know, they're pulled out of the car against the wall, being searched and all that. And they're like, why all this over a minor traffic infraction? They were from out of town. They weren't even, they're tourists, but they were completely violated. And I think about instances like that. I interview them afterwards and I'm talking to them. And I'm like, it just happened, wasn't right. They're like, yeah, you know how it is. And that pisses me off because it shouldn't be, yeah, you know how it is. It shouldn't fucking happen, and we've gotten to the point where we accept it. And it's for me, I personally, I can't accept it. And if I see it happen to somebody else, I have to at least advocate on their behalf. I can't, they're hurt. They're pissed off. They know they've been violated and a complaint needs to be filed. So, that's part of my motivation. The first complaint I ever filed was I was just walking to the ATM. I was actually looking at Twitter. This is during the time of the protests, and it was like one of those recon Twitter accounts that talk about what they're hearing over the police radios. They said backup call to Orange and Sunset Boulevard. And so I said, I'm walking over to the ATM. That's along the way. Let me go see what's going on. I get over there. I see 3 kids pull out of the car. It's like a Lexus SUV, not brand new. It's like maybe 7 years old. And I see all these kids. These are kids, 18 years old, kids. And I see all these cops. I see like 6 cops surrounded. And I'm like, what is all this? And the kids were really, when I watched them, they weren't scared at all. They were hurt and they were upset. They were pissed off. And I couldn't hear what they were saying. I heard something like, they kept on asking, whose car is this? Whose car is this? He's like, it's my mom's. Just give her a call. And when I just knew something was wrong. But anyway, they didn't have their masks on, so I knew I was going to file a complaint. These are the first complaints I've ever filed. And when it was over, I was like, I want their names, and they were just being very evasive and trying to run off. And, one of the cops was telling me, get out of here, bye, or something like that. And I was like, you know what? I'm like, no, I'm not going to fucking get out of here. I want your fucking names. And they were just ran interference, and they just eventually just took off and didn't give me their names. But the kids are right there, and they called me over, and they were saying, thank you, thank you. I'm like, what happened? They said, well, they were following us for about a mile. They said that we didn't stop for a pedestrian. They said, but that's not true. There was no pedestrian. They just made that up. And honestly, I believe them, because the reaction from the cops, the way they just took off out of there, refusing to identify themselves, and the way these kids were acting, to me, I believe them. They didn't feel happy to get out of there. They were pissed off. They were violent, and they wanted to talk to somebody about it. So I talked to them, and I was mad. I said, I'm going to go file a complaint on your behalf. And they were excited about that.
That's awesome.
Because, well, the kids said to me, they said, we were talking to the cops right there, the Hispanic one, and you're like, this is wrong what you're doing to us. This is wrong. Searching their car, all this over a failure to yield to a pedestrian. So to me, that's when I really got motivated. That's when I realized this is more than just masks. That was just straight racial profiling. And I didn't think it would be so out in the open as the way it was. And so I started paying attention. And it blew my mind, because it's completely out in the open. I just watch every stop. I guarantee you, if you live in LA and you see a black person pulled over in a black neighborhood, if you go out there and you film and you watch what's going on, and afterwards you ask those kids, and it's usually kids, what happened, you're going to be disturbed. You're going to find something that's wrong. You're going to find out that they don't even know why they were pulled over. They have no idea. And they have no idea why they were handcuffed. And they have no idea why they were searched. And they have no idea why they were told to take off their jackets so they could take pictures of them.
And shoes.
Or lift up their shirts so they could take pictures of them and then take off without a ticket even being issued. To me, if you're not from the hood, if you're from Sherman Oaks, and you think of that happening to your child, if you're white, you'd be outraged. You'd want somebody fired over that. You would say, how could this happen? But the LAPD says, we can do this. We can do this. And people should be outraged. And if you're conservative, you're one of those back the blue types, you're probably somebody who believes in the Constitution, probably a big believer in the Second Amendment. Well, how do you feel about the Fourth Amendment? If you're really into the Constitution like that, do you hold the Fourth Amendment dear? Do you believe that there should be police have to follow certain processes before they can search you or your property? Because I bet you do. And you'd be hollering it to happen to you.
I wonder often if those people know even truly what the First and Second Amendment are, but anything else about the Constitution. I think they just rattle off what they hear: guns, Second Amendment, freedom of racist speech, First Amendment. Yeah, we've talked about on the show before. We that's not what the First Amendment's about. It's more about what we're out here doing: dissent against your government, holding your government accountable, than going out there and screaming racial epithets freely.
Or having listen, everybody should have a right to say whatever they want. And quite honestly, not a lot offends me. I'm not somebody that gets worked up by somebody, using some sort of racial terms or whatever. Yeah, I usually just spin things around against them, try to figure out what their whole cause is and claim that they are that. And it just pisses them off, But at the same time, they're caught up on that aspect of the First Amendment. But the First Amendment, and what I'm really focusing on right now, is the other part of the First Amendment, which is beyond freedom of speech, but it's the freedom
of the press. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, freedom of the press. The freedom of the press to accumulate information, to gather information, to disseminate to the public. And that's why I see that's something that's really been eye-opening to me lately is, like I said, I have issues with just standard stop procedures, racial bias, not following policy. But it's also how they're treating the press, how they're not allowing the press to gather information properly, how they're not allowing them to disseminate. Well, if you can't allow them to gather it, then they can't disseminate it. Or they're being inconsistent with how they apply with how they violate the First Amendment, let's put it that way. I just filed a complaint on the commander over there at Echo Park, the Echo Park incident, as long as the LAPD media guy, because to me, they clearly violated certain policies. the LAPD policy says they have to allow media an access area or viewing area where they can essentially view or be able to hear what's going on in a protest. Well, they didn't do that in Echo Park. It was a joke. Their media viewing area was nowhere near where any of the skirmish lines were, and that was the point. And so I felt that they needed to be written up for that. I think that when certain press show credentials, if I have two guys from the media show the exact same credentials, one is arrested and transported downtown and one is let go, well, you're showing some sort of bias where you're definitely violating LAPD policy in that you're kind of enforcing things unfairly. You're being selective, and so that's what I saw that the media guy did. And these are just common things. They're targeting certain members of the media, and they need to be called out on it. I'm filed a complaint on it. Do I expect somebody to get suspended over this? No, it's not the point. The point is I want the LAPD to say, you know what? Did they violate this policy or not? If their policy says they aren't supposed to, ask for credentials of members of the media, that they can just self-identify as the media and they're supposed to accept that, but yet they violate that clearly, then they violated policy. And that person who was written up for that needs to have a sustained complaint. The point is, I want to, in a sense, hold them accountable, but there's going to be a lawsuit process. And this could help in the lawsuit process. Did the LAPD sustain those complaints? Or did they, the complaint process, is the complaint process such a joke to the point where they just disregard their own policies and they throw out complaints that clearly violated their own policies? Either way, it's a win. And so I wanted to make sure we start some accountability. I think every cop that violates any policy ever should be written up. And there's a lot of reasons why for that. First off, in 2019, there were 2,550 complaints by the public against the LAPD. Only 96 were sustained. That's 3.8%. All right, so it's a joke. I want to blow those numbers completely out of whack. I filmed 400 cops without their masks on. Can the LAPD say, when I file these complaints against them for not wearing a mask, which clearly violate LAPD policy, can they say, you know what, we find them not guilty? No, they can't. They have to sustain those. So I see 400 sustained complaints right there. Remember, last year, 96 sustained. I'll do 400 just in masks. I'll do another 100 for license plates over at the station because they have to follow California Vehicle Code 5200, which says they have to have license plates on their cars. I go over for a month, I went over to the Hollywood Station parking lot, just snapping pictures of their cars that didn't have license plates. Because that was the number one reason they were pulling over black kids in Hollywood. Pull them over for missing a front license plate, cuff them, toss their car, and then they go back to the station and go home in their cars that didn't have plates either. So if you want to go ahead and pull this shit, I'm gonna hold you accountable for not having plates on your car. I know one thing, you go over there right now, every one of those fucking cars have plates on them. Every one of them. All right, so these are like 500 sustained complaints right there. That doesn't include the complaints for them flashing lights at the cameras or in my eyes, the cameras to flare out the lenses. That's a First Amendment violation. All right? Again, you're affecting my ability to film and disseminate information to the public. All right. And they've sustained complaints for this exact same infraction in the past. These cops do it and they keep on doing it. You know why they keep on doing it? Because nobody writes them up. So let's write them up. Now, again, are they going to get in trouble? No, they're going to get a sustained complaint and it's going to be a no penalty. But there's another reason why I want to have those done. Because eventually we're going to have an online database of police. Yeah. And what it's going to show, the union is going to fight it. And what they're going to say, okay, you know what? We'll allow an online database, but it can only show how many complaints were filed against those cops and how many complaints were sustained against those cops. So my thing is, fine, you want to play that game? If I file 12 complaints against a cop for just not wearing his masks at different time, under that system that the union want, that would just show
Yeah.
this guy has had 12 sustained complaints. They don't know it's for masks. For all the public may think it's for assaulting prisoners. So they see those 12 sustained complaints, and that cop looks like a fucking monster. So therefore, I want to kind of get ahead of that. Secondly, if you get enough sustained complaints, you have to go in front of the board of review. So I want to force them in front of the board of review. I'll be petty, and I don't feel it's petty when I write these cops up for small things. They pull over black kids for small things. They're going to get it right back at them. You don't like it. Don't come fucking whining to me. Like I had this one Sergeant Shapiro. I used to get along with this guy, but I've been fighting with this other sergeant, this punk Willers, and Shapiro had a reputation as being like friendly with me or whatnot at the station, and apparently they were giving him a hard time. So he wanted to get his rocks off and prove himself to Willers by talking shit. So I took it back at him and I just wrote him up a million fucking times, and just hammer him. But one time he had come to me, he said, aren't you being petty about the way you're going after the cops for this? And it kind of pissed me off because I was like, no, I'm not being petty. First off, put on your fucking mask because we're in a pandemic. Secondly, he was saying this while I was at a scene where some kids were just walking up and down the street. It was the middle of the pandemic. They didn't have anything open. There were no clubs or anything like that open. There was nothing to do. They were walking up down the street, filming a little video for Instagram. And the cops felt that they were just, I don't even know. They just jumped out on them for whatever fucking reason. And they were pissed off. And one of the kids claimed the cop pushed him. And he admitted to me that he pushed her. He said he pushed her because she got up in his face. I wasn't there. I got up there right after it happened. So I didn't know what happened. Regardless, I went and wrote his ass up and let his body cam tell the story. But all this happened for what? Because some kids are filming a video. You're going after them for the tiniest things. So don't complain to me when I go after you guys for the tiniest things. You're going to get a taste of your own medicine. You're going to get a chance to see how it is. And don't fucking complain. But they still complain. They don't quite get it. And so, they don't get it. They will get it. Eventually they'll get it.
Yeah, these motherfuckers that's cool with murder are the ones always telling me, you need to watch your mouth. Can't you be nicer, more civil? Y'all murder motherfuckers. Like, what? Come on. Yeah, they stupid.
Yeah,
but I do
watch my mouth all the time.
I do want to go over, because we talked before the show. What I unfortunately don't do is file complaints and do records requests and everything. So I was wondering if maybe there's a way you can briefly go over how to go about doing that for people, because that's really an important thing. I got my own twisted reasons that are stupid, and nobody should have my reasons, but I believe everyone should do that. And I threaten to do it a lot. I just can't do it.
Yeah. I mean, so listen, there are a number of ways you can file complaints, right? You can actually go to the station and file a complaint directly with the station. You can request a desk supervisor, which is a sergeant, and file a complaint directly with them. You can ask for, a supervisor at a scene and file a complaint with them. You can reach out to the police headquarters and file a complaint. I recommend none of those things. The whole point of getting the complaint filed is getting it to internal affairs. Okay. So if you file a complaint with the station, the next step that's going to happen is the sergeant is going to interview you. Understand the role of a sergeant is to protect an officer. That's always the role. That's their number one role. The sergeants are the most insufferable people there are. The sergeants don't care. I mean, I'm not going to say they don't care about the public. I don't want to just go too far with it. I mean, yeah, I probably feel like they don't care, but whatever.
I think you were right.
But their main goal, their main priority is protecting cops before the community. And so if you file a complaint with them, what they're going to do is they're going to use little tricks to try to sidetrack the complaint, right? To derail the complaint. First thing is they have a lot of discretion to decide if it goes on to the next stage. I'll give you an example. One person came to me and asked for help filing a complaint for a mass complaint up in Northern California. I walked her through the process of how to handle it. She filed a complaint. They contacted her and they said, "Hey, what do you want to see come of this?" And she said, "I want accountability." And he said, "Okay." And he hung up the phone and she never heard from him again. And she wanted to know where the complaint was. She contacted them and essentially said, "Oh, you said you wanted accountability." So I went and talked to them, and that's how we held them accountable. You have to be very precise with your language when you file a complaint. You have to let them know, "I want to file a complaint. I want this going to internal affairs." Okay. The sergeant is going to try to sidetrack that. So they're going to try to look for little tricks to avoid sending it to internal affairs. Secondly, is if you try to get information, like say, for instance, is you trying to get the name of a cop. A lot of times these cops will just take off on me and I'm screaming at them, "Give me your fucking name," and they'll take off anyway. I'd go to the station and try to get the cop's name. They're going to try to avoid giving you their name. They're going to fight. I mean, it turns into this 20-minute match where I'm just, they're just trying to wear you down. They're not very skilled at what they're doing. At the end of the day, these guys are sergeants. They're a bunch of lunkheads. They're not,
Can I interrupt you real quick? Just to go back. When you're in there dealing with these cops, do they try to intimidate you, or are they pretty professional like they need to be? Are you filming? I mean, like what's going on in there when you're in there? Is it? Do you feel safe?
So listen, man. I mean, I don't know how to explain it, but I don't ever feel unsafe. I've never felt. They try to intimidate, right? So the cops are used to having. I think this is important, right? There's a power dynamic with the cops where it's very one-sided. They're used to, walking over to the car when you're in there and they're holding their belt and trying to act all macho, and they expect the driver to be like, "Please, officer, can you please cut me a break?" And, he's on his big old power trip, like, "Oh, you know what? I'll cut you a break this time, but, you need to." They're used to that, right? What they're not used to is when you come back at them in their face and you let them know what they need to do. They're not used to that. So they get shocked. And 99% of these guys are punks. There's a lot of things that you see, like if I'm filming, that you see. A lot of times I'm like, I have the camera down at the ground because I'm not even thinking about filming. I'm just in their face and we're having a stare down. And I like to put them to change that power dynamic because honestly, they are a bunch of punks, a lot of them. They're the ones who overdo the whole, cop shit, tough guy role. Those are the biggest pussies out there. So just take it back to them a little bit, and they don't know how to handle it. I like it. I pay money to have those confrontations. So there's not a lot of them that are going to intimidate me. If they try, I try to intimidate them back. I don't care if it's 20 of them there. I don't know how many times I've been on a dark ass street at 2:00 in the morning. It's the end of a stop, and I'm pissed off, and there's 20 of them. The fucking street lights don't work. And they'll try walking around me, whatever. I'll walk right through them and stare every last fucking one of them down. Because, I like putting them in that position. I wish more people would. I understand it's not easy. I think about my girlfriend where one night she called me and she said the cops were riding right next to her as she walked down the street, just riding right next to her. And I'm like, "Take a picture." And she's like, I'm not you. And, that should hurt me. So I just, I fucking ran home. I was pissed off. So again, maybe I handle these things differently. So do they try to intimidate me? Yeah, I guess they try. It's not going to work.
Okay, but let me just because I don't know the answers to this and I have you here, I just kind of want to get them for me as well as the people listening. So you go in, you're reporting. Let's say anybody. This somebody's their first time filming the police.
You walk in there, start recording. That's what I'd say. You have a right to record. First thing you do. That's a mistake I made the very first time I was there. I should have recorded. I didn't. Record.
Okay.
You want everything. Anytime you have any interaction with the cops, record that shit. Every single time. If you don't, you're going to wish you did later.
Do they ever try to search you while you're in there trying to file a complaint?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. So first off, since COVID, you can't literally walk into the station. They meet you at the gate. And so I just start recording. The first time I went there to record a cop who was trying to harass me. He was riding down the street over his speakers, calling out my name and shit. And I had enough of it. So I went over there to go find out his name and they wouldn't give it to me. And I'm like, you know what? Then I'm just going to go ahead and just like make up like 1,000 flyers with his face on it. I'm going to plaster them all over Hollywood. How would that work? Or how would it work if I just make like get a fathead poster with his, a life-size poster of him and stand in front of the station and say, "Do you know who this cop is?" And she looked at me horrified while I said that. I never intended to do it. I was like, but it would probably be illegal if I attached those to the poles, because those are city property, right? So it'd probably be illegal. And she's like, "Oh yeah." And it was just at a point that I'm gonna do whatever. I mean, I would do it if I had to. I'll do whatever I have to, but not everybody can. So they're not going to intimidate me, but they're going to try. I would say the majority of the time they are going to try to intimidate somebody. I never really thought of it like that, but yeah, they probably are. They're going to try to throw their weight around.
What would you say the threat
they might
level
show up
is?
at your house.
Oh, they've done that to me before, just for filming. But what would you say the threat level is when going in or going to meet, to file a complaint? Between 1 and 10.
It depends on. I gotta tell you, it's hard for me because it's just I can only see through my perspective. I would imagine a lot of times when you go in there, they may try to be super nice to certain people. I've gone in there and they fuck with me, and we've had screaming matches. Tell me, "No, this isn't gonna work. I'm not." Essentially, we're not gonna file the complaint. And I started screaming. But with the average person, it's hard for me to say. I would say it's not a matter of the threat level; it's the seriousness level. At the end of the day, they're gonna each one of your complaints, they're gonna have a serious level of 0, even if they're pretending that they're being super serious about it. They're not. They're just thinking about ways of how they can have it thrown out. That's all
so
they're thinking about.
It depends how much damage your complaint's going to do, basically.
Yeah, and it depends who shows up. I'll be honest with you. If a 50-year-old white lady shows up over there, they're not going to try to intimidate her. They're going to say, "Oh, we're going to take this very seriously." If an 18-year-old black kid comes over there, they're going to fucking laugh in his face. Or, they're going to turn on their body camera and they're going to smirk so you can't see the smirk.
Yeah.
But they're not going to show. Either way, they're not going. The end result is going to be the same. They're going to find ways to have this complaint either thrown out, or it's just at the end of the day not going to be sustained.
Got you. Okay. So now back to, you said the sergeant has a lot of ways when the complaint comes in.
On how to on how it's handled. So you just want it. The whole goal is to get it past the sergeant. So here's what I'd say to that is: don't go to the station to file a complaint. Don't. All right. It's a waste of your time. So that is a way you could go file. I'm trying to explain why you shouldn't. The way to go about it is send it directly to the LAPD Commission or directly to the Office of Inspector General. They then send it to Internal Affairs. So the station tries to throw themselves in there as a layer that's not even needed. Your goal is to get it to Internal Affairs. You can get it to Internal Affairs by sending it directly to them. If you go to the station, like I said, they're going to try to gum it up, or they're going to try to gather as much information from you about the complaint so they can figure out how to defend both the officer and the department. Why give them that information? Why? I'm not going to give it to them.
So
I've learned that.
How do you send it?
Another beautiful
do you send it through email or snail mail or what?
Right?
Okay.
Yeah, so there are multiple ways. You can send it, fax it. You can call them directly. You can actually go ahead and file directly online, I believe. I don't believe in any of that. I believe in making things as public as possible. And so when I was looking at the procedures of how to file a complaint, one of the ways they said that they will take a formal complaint is if you send them a social media message. Well, a tweet is a social media message.
Wow, that's why you do
that. So what I do is, to me, first off, it's fucking funny. Like, you got to take this shit. All right. And when they take it, I get, they know my address. So I'm going to get not only just an email receipt from the LAPD Commission, but then when it gets to Internal Affairs, I get an actual mail to my house, with stating which tweet it was that they're referring to. It's funny shit. But yeah, that's the way I do it. For one, because I can do it that way. Two, to make it public and force them to respond. They can't just kind of throw it away. And three, encourage other people to do the same thing. Let people know they're,
See, I honestly, I probably would have reported more if I could just send a quick, fill out a form on an email, write out what happened, not have to deal with the pigs in person. That's what I always thought I had to do.
Yeah, and my thing is, me personally, I would, if I had my way, I would love to like go serve the complaint right to the cops themselves while filming their faces as I hand them the complaint. Like I like the confrontation of it all. So filing online, I like, to me that's sort of my little passive aggressive confrontation. At the same time, I don't think a cop really wants their name put out in social media. It's not like, a million people are seeing it, but I wouldn't want you. Would you want your name put out there like that? No. So therefore, it'll hopefully encourage some of them to, behave properly. I'm going to tell you right now, the way the police in Hollywood conduct their business right now is night and day different than it was, say, 4 months ago or 6 months ago. It's completely different. As far as I'm concerned, the things that I've complained about, they completely changed their ways. I'm winning this one. So to me, it's a matter of, I want to see this. I feel like I've created like a model that can be used. I think there's been a proof of concept that shows it can, at a minimum, change behaviors. And I want to see it replicated in other places, Southwest, Southeast, Rampart, New.
Yeah, all them
wherever.
places. And even somewhere like Culver City where these cops here, it's like, honestly, this is not even hyperbole. If you see the cops pulling somebody over, you'll know what race they are. If it's one cop car, it's a white person. If it's two or more, it's a black or Latino cat.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. And it's never not like that. I got so many videos of them motherfuckers doing that same shit.
So, see, that's what I want to do. I want to have this replicated. I mean, quite honestly, I'll go anywhere. I'll go anywhere to go film them. My only issue is you have to be sensitive about what hood you're in, because you don't want to listen. If you're in different hoods and there's two different gangs fighting, and you have somebody coming in there filming, they don't want to actually. I got to make sure that I'm not handing information to the other side, some sort of op to them.
Like just last week, as a matter of fact, I was in Inglewood, and there was a soul food place, and there was a security guard getting really in this girl's face because she was parked in an illegal space, but it wasn't even on their property, And she was a delivery driver. She wanted to get her shit and go. He was being a serious dick. He slammed the window down and said, "I'm calling the police on you," and this and that, and blah, 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 blah. She's like, "Motherfucker, I'm calling my brother then." So she calls her brother. He calls the police. He's describing her, saying how violent she is. Like, this is a black cat and a black woman, And she's like, "I don't give a fuck. My brother's on his way." So before the police I said, now I'm stuck standing here. I was trying to go smoke some weed. So I'm stuck standing here waiting for the police now because I'm telling her, like, "Oh, man, they can't tow you. They might tow your car or something. I don't know what they're going to do. This dude's being a bitch." So anyway, her brother come. Straight up little blood dude. He's like, "What up, blood?" Knocking the dude, boom, 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 boom. Beat the security's ass. All the people were like, "Oh shit, whatever." So I was like, "Look, you need to tell your brother he need to get the fuck up out of here, like right now." Yeah. And he's like, "I'm already gone." He took off like, boom. Police came like 5 minutes later. She already mashed out. Security guard got womped out. And these people start getting mad at me for filming the police, this girl and this dude. And I don't know what he's thinking. Like, I'm from a Crip neighborhood. He's saying, "Cuz this, cuz that." You in a blood neighborhood, cousin all over the place, man. I don't give a shit, dude. You know what I'm saying? I said, "I'm filming these police." He's like, "No, you was filming my girl." The thing was, his girl kept walking in front of my camera, flipping me off. Talking about.
I mean, so those impossible situations where you have to be sensitive. Like in Hollywood, you're not.
Nah, I'm not gonna stop filming the police for them. Know. You want to get down in front of the police, whatever. I don't give a shit. I'd rather just film and y'all leave.
I'll go out of my way to try to not get anybody on film. And if somebody walks in front of my camera, I just hold my camera down at the ground. I try to be as sensitive as I can. But let's say it's a dark street and it's somewhere in the 60s, and it's 2:00 in the morning. That's a tough situation to be in when you're filming the police, especially if they don't.
The thing is, I didn't film nothing. This is the thing that happened that pissed me off, kind of. This is why I had an attitude. Because everybody filmed the fight or the ass whooping. And I didn't film shit until the police rolled up. Yeah. And then everybody's like, "Why are you filming the police?" I don't film. I don't.
You,
When shit jumped off on these little quote riots, uprisings, whatever you call them, my cameras went off. I'm not incriminating myself
yeah,
or nobody else. That's not my goal. My
yeah,
goal is to watch these pigs.
yeah. People gonna be difficult like that sometimes. It's like that's a hard situation. It's like, you know, th- honestly, it feels like somebody just wanted to fight. But at the same time, maybe they felt like by you filming the cops that somehow there's going to be repercussions against everybody else, like you're going to piss off the cops. Because that happens. There are times that I know for a fact that me filming actually may lead to somebody getting a ticket. Only because the cops might feel like, okay, we really have to cover our ass now. Let's give a ticket for whatever reason. I'm aware of that too. So it's like, it's sensitive when filming. People will sometimes just be irrational. And so in a situation like that, it's unfair because you're there literally filming the cops for everybody else's protection,
I mean, a
but they
group
just
of
don't get
cats,
it.
a group of little youngsters walked by and flipped the cops off. Said, "Hell yeah, keep filming them motherfuckers." But they wasn't any original shit. They were just some little gangbanger motherfuckers. But the whole thing
Yeah,
was,
I haven't had too many situations like that. Like
I
99%
know a
of the
lot of
time when I film,
yeah.
99% of the time when I film, people are thankful. They come up to me afterwards. They, thank you for filming. They might say, "Hey, what are you doing with that? Are you gonna
Yeah.
put it on YouTube?" I'm like, "No, I'm not doing it. I'll blur your face out. I'll blur out your license plate. I'll blur all that shit. I file complaints. That's all I care about. Filing complaints."
Yeah,
And then so they appreciate that.
I just be like, if you need the video, here's how you can get hold of me. I'll shoot it to you for court, whatever you need it for. But I
Well,
don't.
it's
Yeah,
just
I just
there's a
look like.
process.
Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, but there's a process I think with cop watching that you have to go through. Is for me, it's more than just filming. Like I said, filming helps, but then there's after the stop is over, you have to kind of advocate for the kids. Their heads are spinning. They don't know what happened. And initially, their thoughts are, "Fuck, the cuffs are off. We're just happy to get out of here." But then, like a minute later, it sinks in. Be like, "Wait, why the fuck are we in cuffs in the first place? How did this happen?" And so their head is
Yeah.
spinning, and during that time, those cops are taking off. And they don't know what to do. So I try to grab information from them quickly. Why were you pulled over? Did you give them consent to search? Are you on probation or parole? Trying to find out questions really quickly, answers really quickly. So I know if this is something that would be a valid complaint. Get that information and then go get those cops' names immediately before they leave. So I can go ahead and, get the process started with the complaint and then kind of take it over from there. Again, these are kids. I got kids myself who are the same age. I got a 22-year-old son who literally just paid off his car last week. I tell him, don't come to Hollywood. Do not come to Hollywood. If I have to fucking come over to a scene, a stop where you're at and scream at some cops over something, I'm not going to be happy. Just don't come. Or if you do come, you better let me know in advance. Yeah. But at the end of the day, they get stopped. They get violated. They don't know what to do. They need an advocate. So that's where I come in. I try to advocate for them, find out, explain to them what their rights are, explain to them what LAPD policy is, explain to them exactly how their rights were violated, explain to them what I'm going to do. I ask them, you want me to file a complaint? Can I file a complaint on your behalf? If they say yes, I'm going to go, full steam ahead with it. I'll explain to them exactly where to go with it. With that having been said, then I go through the OIG process. But right now, for the last 2 months, I haven't filed any complaints, really. I've been taking inventory of all my videos. I kind of became really disorganized with it. I got everything organized. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do things a little differently. It's not just filing things publicly. It's also making sure that a copy is sent to the district attorney. It's also to make sure a copy is sent to the public defender so they can create a database of individual cops who maybe have shown bias in the past. Sending it also to my local council person. Making sure that we have this redundant paperwork. But more than that, there's a thing called the essentially right now what Gascon is trying to do is, or what he said he's going to start looking at is cops who have shown bias or have lied in the past. He's going to make it impossible for them to actually testify in court because of those reasons. And if you're a cop who can't testify in court, you can't be a cop. What can you do? You can't go out in the street and do regular policing if you can't actually testify in court related to that policing? Or better yet, you're going to have a defense attorney who is going to fight every bit of the evidence that you gathered or whatnot because of your history. And so there's a list for this. The district attorney creates this list. And a few months ago, an ex-district attorney who quit, he's progressive, came to me and said, you need to go ahead and really take advantage of this list. And he explained to me the whole process of how about going about it. What happens is if you send it to the district attorney, they have an investigator look at the officer and they may pull all of their stops and see if there is a consistent history of some sort of misconduct and bias. And if it is, it eventually ends their career. They can't, like I said, they can't testify in court. You can't be a cop. So my point is, I'm trying to gather as much information to have individual cops put on this list who I feel that are just dirty fucking cops, who've just done some dirty ass shit, who have no business being on the street.
Yeah, but that's why the other quote unquote good cops let them do it. They know what's going on, man. That's why I don't like none of them motherfuckers. Really.
Well, that's the thing, right? So, when I look at cops, like my girlfriend called me a bootlicker. She would always say, if they only understood how much of a bootlicker you really are, and it's kind of true, right? Because I have a hard time just like holding grudges against anybody in general. So when I look at cops, I look at these guys and, there's, like you said, there's train of thought where you just never talk to the cops at all. I actually talk to these guys all the time. I ask them straight up questions about their policing. I tell them I think that's ridiculous what you're talking about, but I'll talk to them. I'll engage them. So they'll engage me back and forth. I'll write their asses up. Some of the ones I engage, I've written up numerous times, and I won't stop. It's not going to change anything. But I'm just always curious about their mindset. So I'll pick their brain, but at the same time, again, I don't think I've ever heard of a situation where a LAPD cop has turned in another LAPD cop for abusing a suspect, for police brutality. I can't think of one. I can't think of a single time. And I bring this up to cops, and they said, well, it happens, but you just don't hear about it. Well, if I heard about it, if they were testifying against them, trust me, we'd hear about it. If there were cops arrested for this brutality that was initiated by another cop, we would have heard about it. It doesn't happen.
Yeah,
you can't tell me it doesn't. It doesn't happen, because my thing is, you could be a good person. Some of these guys, I think they're probably good people outside of, and there are going to be a lot of people who disagree with me, but they might be good people. That doesn't mean you're a good fucking cop. Because if you see your partner, knee some kid in his fucking ribs, right? And he might try to rationalize it like, yeah, I know Jim, I've known him, I know his family, I know his wife. Yeah, he shouldn't have done that, but, I don't think he'll do it again. And, I'm going to pretend I didn't see it. Well, you know what? You're a fucking bad cop too. Any cop who sees this shit happen and does nothing about it is a bad fucking cop. And that is the standard. So, again, I haven't seen a cop actually turn in another cop, LAPD, turn in another cop for police brutality. Therefore, I start off as the default of, there are no good cops until proven otherwise. Like I said, I'll talk to them. I'll have cordial relationships with them. I might even like their personality somewhat. But I know that when it comes down to it, 99.999 or 100% of the time, they are not going to testify or initiate an investigation against that other officer. So that is the standard, in my opinion.
James Baldwin said something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing, but he said that cop, to his friends and neighbors, the white cop might be a fine, really good dude, a really good man, whatever. He says, but when he's pulling me over, I might not live long enough to find out. Yeah, it's real. But then I asked a cop once. I asked a couple of them, I think. I said, how come I see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of videos of y'all beating people, murdering people, doing all kinds of illegal stuff, but I don't ever see one video of a cop pulling a gun saying, stop, don't shoot that guy, or stop beating that dude, or I'm going to shoot you, or I'm going to arrest you if you keep breaking the law. I never see one video like that.
That's exactly it.
And then the cop says, They're out there. I said, you know what? I got
Ah,
my phone right here. Tell me where to look. Just tell me what to search. He shut the hell up quick.
well, it's exactly right. Think of George Floyd. Think about it, right? So
Yeah.
at what point, here is this cop. He's got his knee on his neck. The guy is down in a prone position, hands behind his back. And at 5 minutes, he's unconscious. But yet he kept his knee on his neck. At what point, as you, the other officers, step in and say, get the hell off of him? Enough. And if he's not going to get off of him, at what point do you go ahead and literally detain that officer, arrest that officer for assault? They won't. They'll default to whatever that officer's doing. As he spent another, what, we thought it was another 3 minutes and 26 or 46 seconds, and we've come to find out it's actually a total of 9 minutes and a half. And nobody, just think about that. That's like 3 songs listening to, as this guy's unconscious. What? And you couldn't step in? You didn't stop him? And, if I were walking down the street and those same officers, the same ones who didn't stop Chauvin, if they saw, say, somebody putting a knee on the neck, or their partner putting their knee on the neck of a dog, would that officer say, hey, Jim, stop, get off of his neck? What are you doing? Yes, they would. But they won't do that for a black man. And to me, that's the way I always view that. They're
There's
not
no
going
other way
to.
you can view that.
So that's what motivates me. That's part of my motivation.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of frame I have to look at things.
It's
Again, do
disgusting.
I
That has
think?
to be anybody's motivation. It's a fucked up system.
Well, I don't think. Do I think a majority of cops are going to go out there and put their knee on their neck and pull some shit like they did against George Floyd? No, maybe it's just that 1-2%. And you know what? And I'd say a lot of people will say, no, bullshit, you're wrong. It's all of them. And
Well,
I get
no,
what you're saying
but
too.
no, the
Me
argument.
personally, I say it's
Go
1 to 2%.
But that's not the argument. The argument would be
It's about the other ones who allow
exactly
that 1 to 2% to
because
exist.
if some cat's committing some kind of crime, like they're robbing a bank or something, right? And somebody with them doing something, I don't know, but not really involved, they're gonna pick everybody up, even the guy who just drove the car or whatever, and they all involved with this shit, and they're not snitching, right? So the cops are the same way. So what distinguishes the cops from the quote unquote thugs that they hate so much? I mean,
Well, my thing is, obviously, that the mentality is not going to change on its own. I think the only way you have to go about it is you have to use whatever systems are in place to fight back against them. At the end of the day, they're 12,000 LAPD employees, 10,000 street cops. They have an operational budget of, I guess 1.8 billion, 1.85 billion. They're a big force. They have all the institutional power behind them. Politicians are all behind them. They have the goodwill of the public behind them, or at least they used to. And so when you fight back, you got to use whatever you can and anything you can. And in a lot of ways, it takes giving zero fucks. And I don't expect everybody, or even most, or even the great majority to give zero fucks. You got to think about your family. You got to think about yourself, your own safety, things like that. Police intimidation is real. Police retaliation is real.
yeah, but you should
But
use I think talking to you now, I'm realizing people should use their zero fucks
as
and
much as
hit
possible
hit a target rather than just missing
well,
all
listen,
just shooting up a room.
well, listen, there's this one cop named Dalen, right? So I used to hate him more than any other cop. And over the course of time, he's probably the most likable cop. And I learned a lot of information, just probing about police information, about police policies, things like that. And he's really open about it. So I'm talking to him one night. He just got finished with his stop. And I'm telling him, you know what? I just finished filming Escobar. I just finished filming a few stops. He's like, oh, yeah, were they good or what? I said, a couple complaints. He's like, who? I said, well, Escobar. He's like, yeah, you don't like him. I'm like, no, I don't like him. I'm like, but why are your stops so different? They pull everybody over and they got guns out and pull them out of the car and handcuffing them. You just pulled this guy over. This person had essentially the registration sticker was like stolen or whatever. It hadn't been registered for 2 years, the car, but the sticker said it was up to date. So obviously it was a switch sticker. Every other cop would have said, oh, it's a stolen car and had their guns out. I said, why do you handle things differently? he didn't really give me an answer on that, but I'm just talking to him, and after about 15 minutes or 10 minutes, a lady comes walking up to me, and she said, "Sir, are you all right?" And she's recording, and it kind of startled me. I look, and I'm like, "Yeah." And at first, I'll be honest with you, I was like a little annoyed. I'm like, what the fuck you want? And then I realized, oh, she's filming me for my protection. I said, this is exactly what I ask for all the time. And so I was really appreciative of it. The cop wasn't. I'm not going to mention what he said, but, he was a little annoyed. But I was thinking to myself, this is everything I want. What people need to do is tape the police. If you see the cops, somebody pulled over, I don't care if it's a young black guy. I don't care if it's an old white woman. I don't care what neighborhood it's in. If you see a police stop, stand across the street, just film, or at least pretend you're filming. Like I said, at least pretend you're filming. I say film because anything can happen. Film, and have that on tape and let them know you're filming. And it's not just a matter of, for me, I personally like being very visual about it because I want to let people know that are driving by that I'm filming the cops. And you know what? Maybe you should feel comfortable with it too. Because understand it's not easy for most. It's easy for me. I love doing it. If I see some blues or some flashing yellows, I'm like a fiend rushing to it. That's not for everybody.
I'm the opposite. I'm like, fuck no, I gotta film the goddamn police today.
Nah, man. Listen, if I hear a helicopter, I'm out the door running. If I hear a siren, I'm turning on the scan.
I just hate to be around them, man. It's torture for me to be out there. I hate them fuckers. Oh,
man, I was on the freeway. They had somebody pulled over on the 10 the other day, and I was like kind of depressed because I can't pull over on the freeway and film. There's nothing I can do. I was just helpless. I love them. Every time I see them, I gotta go film it.
Yeah, I'm an opportunist. I have to come across them naturally. I usually don't hunt for them unless they piss me off. Then I'll do it a few days.
But if I could just offer some advice, right? Like I said, film what you can. Look for specific things. First off, if they're pulled out and handcuffed, try to find out why. And that involves just listening. You can hear the cops talking about why they're doing certain things. Sometimes they'll purposely be loud about it because they want you to know why these people were handcuffed. They'll be like, hey, make sure you tell your probation officer that we took good care of you, screaming things like that. They'll kind of let you know. But if you have any questions, try to talk to the people afterwards. And it's always sensitive. When you approach the car, I always try to go up to the car with, say, you guys all right, Try to worry about their well-being first, then try to find out what happened. And then try to find out, are you comfortable with it? Was it right? Do you think it was right what they did? Did they search your car? Did you give them, did you allow them to search your car? Things like that. Find out specifics. Like I said, you'd be shocked when black people were involved, how some sort of procedure was violated. It happens. It's nonstop. So I recommend doing that. And then, listen, if you want to file a complaint, I believe in filing third-party complaints. Like I said, I like being very vocal about it, very public about it, and filing online. But you can file a third-party complaint anonymously, completely anonymously, directly through the OIG. You can DM them a message. You can call them and initiate an investigation. Remember, you don't necessarily have to provide your film. My filming won't necessarily sustain a complaint because why would they even need it? You have dash cam footage, and you have
I don't care about them using my film to punish a pig. They can get them on. Like I said before, that one day I was shocked when the cop was telling me, "Oh, I seen this video and blah 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 and whatever." Fuck
yeah,
them.
my thing is, but then there will be people who just don't want to be involved. They just they are worried, and like I said, their concerns. You have to take those. I take that into account, and their concerns are real. So there are options they can do it anonymously, but initiating it, and then there are certain things the cops have to fill out on stop. They have to fill out an FI card and they have to fill out a RIPA. And what they found in this audit through the OIG is that 23% of all stops where searches were involved weren't recorded. So we really don't know how bad the disparities are because, quite honestly, the cops are violating their own policies by not filling out these FI cards and not filling out the information they're supposed to, documenting the stops the way they're supposed to be done. So therefore, if you have any question about a stop, just initiating an investigation with a phone call can then lead to, say, them pulling the body cam footage and the dash cam footage, finding out that, hey, you know what, this doesn't actually match up with what was put in a report. A matter of fact, there isn't any documentation showing the stop even happened before this. And that can lead to its own process, its own complaint going through the process. So just initiating these things as much as possible. If you feel there's probable cause for a complaint, file it. Make sure that that stop from the police end was properly documented. Like I said, I believe in filing as many complaints as possible. But I also believe in filing as many complaints that I know will be sustained, because I want to blow these numbers out. Like I said, 96% of complaints were sustained last year. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to have like 700 this year. And it's all going to be from the Hollywood station. They're going to be like, how did we see this, 7,000% jump, and why did this all happen in one area? Well, if it is all happening in one station, what's happening in the other stations? And hopefully that will encourage other people to go along with it and to get involved with it. Because I hope more people start filming. Yeah. I'll be honest with you, it's exhausting. It's exhausting doing the process I do on my own. It wears me out. I had to take a little break just for mental health reasons for like the last couple of months. But now I'm recharged and ready to go. But I would like to see more people do it, because I believe that it will be effective. I'm just starting this process. I have a lot of faith in myself and getting some change done with it. I'm not exactly sure where it's going to end up, but I bet you it's going to make a fucking change. It's going to make a difference. I guarantee it.
Sounds like it already has locally.
Locally, I know for a fact it has. Locally.
But I mean, I know it's important. Go ahead.
Well, I think locally it has, but it's way more systemic than that. It's the whole, all the way to the top. It's fucked up, inside, outside, the whole culture. Even to like I said, they make on average $147,000 a year. All right, and all they need is a high school education, and be 5 feet tall and 20/40 vision. And, in not so long, they'll be averaging, almost immediately, they're going to make over $100,000 when you average in overtime and stuff. This is a ton of money, and they're asking for more and more and more. And what happens? 54% of our budget goes to it now. It'll be 63% if they hire 3,000 more cops for the Olympics. And it depletes money for other things. The police chief says the increase in murders comes from economic reasons associated with COVID and an increase in murders against the homeless community. So maybe we should start putting more resources towards, reducing the economic hurt related from COVID. And maybe we should get more people off the street to reduce murders against the unhoused. That, to me, is common sense. And what they're saying is, no, we need more money for cops. We need more money for cops and more money for cops. But to me, that perpetuates the problem. They take way too much money of our budget right now that should be going towards services that are preventative, things that prevent crime. You know what? If there are resources for kids in high school or whatnot, then you know what? They're much less likely to get associated in crime. If a single mother had assistance of, say, $1,000 a month that would help take care of her rent, maybe she wouldn't have to work the second job. She could spend more time home with their kids, work on homework, things like that, where they have less time running around at night. If we have those resources spent toward the right places, it'll prevent crime from the beginning. The thing I often say is, right now, the way we deal with crime from the police response is like saying, let's focus all our money, if we're battling cancer, let's focus all our money on chemotherapy. Once people get cancer, let's just blast them with chemotherapy. No, why don't we do things to try to prevent cancer in the first place, like preventative reasons and research and things like that. We need to take that same approach and put it toward the communities. The proper education, proper financial assistance, things like that, proper after-school programs. Even before school programs, making sure kids have something to eat, making sure. When I grew up in high school, we had a job program after school in the summer. Summer job program called Job Corps or whatnot. Not Job Corps. I can't think of the name of it, but you'd go and work in the city and you'd go and clean parks and beautify the communities. At the end of the day, after work, I was tired. I wasn't going to go run out in the streets. I wasn't going to go out causing problems. I was tired, and I get up the next day early and do it all over again. And you know what? That employed tens of thousands of kids, and to me, it reduces crime. Something like that should be applied here. Make sure all these high school kids, these young kids, have some jobs. They're making some money, so they don't have to rely on doing other things to make money. So they're actually involved with things. But no, we take that fucking money and we give it to more and more cops. Again, these fucking guys don't, and women do not live in LA. 80% of them don't live here.
And they don't, when they do hire these young cats, they don't give them any hours or any benefits or anything. It's just a bullshit little job half the time where they're making like less than $100 a week or something. Yeah. You can't live on that. You can't do nothing, man. And they have a whole bunch of cats like this, so they don't got to pay benefits. They don't have to do this and that.
But think about that.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
But instead, we're taking that money. These are these kids. Let's say they're in Inglewood, South Central, in Culver City, or wherever the fuck, Watts, Compton, wherever, right? And instead of taking that money and spending our own tax money here in LA on these kids, we go and hire kids from Ventura, from San Bernardino, from Orange County, from Riverside to come in here and pay them $100,000 a year to then police these same kids, to then go ahead and profile these same kids, to go ahead and lock up these same kids who then, once they get that record, now they're really screwed, or at least they feel that they're screwed and they feel that there's no hope. As we're taking that money and we're going, and these cops who don't live here are buying their houses at 23 over in, in Orange County. And after 25 years or whatever, when they retire at 50, the house is paid off, the cars are paid off, their boats are paid off, the kids have been through private school, they have all this excess money. They retire, they get this fat-ass pension. They take the equity from their house, they start a business, whether it's a franchise or open up a sports bar or whatever, and then they create all this generational wealth that's outside of LA. And the whole time they're getting these fat ass pensions. We're paying for the fucking wife Karen's health care, and it's forever.
Yeah, they get
$1 billion is automatically leaves here. $1 billion every year automatically leaves here and takes care of those cops. What are we doing? This is like, where are our priorities at?
Those pensions should be used to pay their victims instead of our tax dollars, man, for real.
Well, it's the funny thing is they were talking about what they did at Echo Park, and they were talking at the first night. They said the first night, just looking at salaries alone, it probably came to about $500,000, the police bill, right? So think of, you applied that. Let's say the market rate in Echo Park for a one-bedroom apartment is like, say, $1,900. The first night's police response could have paid off like everybody who was living in the park months worth of rent for that same police response. So what was the point of that? And that doesn't even include, like you were mentioned, the victims, they broke some guy's arm. So they're gonna be a potential lawsuit where they're gonna pay out hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you have to look at it that way. Not only would they spend $500,000 just on police pay that night, but it's gonna keep on going on, the cost from potential lawsuits related to it.
Yeah, those lawsuits need to come out their pension.
Exactly. Don't even get me started about that. Pension.
Yeah, it's a whole. Yeah, we got to wrap it up soon. So yeah, just frustrate the fuck out of me too, man. Like, why do they let these people do this? Like, you're doing something about it. I know. No,
because we let them. You know why? We're so beaten down. We see police do it and say, "Oh, there's nothing we can do about it." So do something about it. My thing is, I'm gonna do something about it. Maybe I'll set an example. I just don't care. I guarantee something's going to come of this. Like, I have a deep belief in myself, and I'll make it happen. It's going to take some time or whatever, but I'll make sure it happens, because I think just documenting the police, they put their asses out there just way too often. It's easy. It's not even hard to do it. It's not hard to find police misconduct. It's getting harder for me to find police misconduct in Hollywood. It's really hard. Honestly, I don't even see stops anymore. I might see one every couple of days. It's where I used to go outside. I go to Hollywood Boulevard. I would see 5 stops happening simultaneously, and it'd just be a matter of which one am I going to pick. It's becoming harder and harder. So I know that they've definitely changed their policing. If they are, I know they have, and I know they're listening, and they know I know that they have, and good. Because they probably said, "Oh, you know what? We're going to pull back with the cops on the street, and when shit jumps off, we're just going to blame William." Well, shit hasn't jumped off. And the funny thing that I noticed is, on nights when they're out there just deep swirling around, there's so much tension in the air that they create. And when they're gone, everything is just fucking chill. So it's hard to quantify why an increased police response seems to get people worked up and aggravated that can lead to, some sort of crime. But I really believe that now after watching it. And it's hard for me to quantify it. I don't know how to, but I've seen it happen enough. The more that they're out there, the more things get worked up and the more shit happens. It's like they cause shit to happen. And I'm not saying that it's not going to happen. I'm not pretending like there aren't people out on Hollywood Boulevard who have guns and stuff. I'm not pretending that. But what I'm saying is the process of them trying to find that one gun involves them pissing off so many fucking people that it actually hurts their cause in the long run. There's so much animosity out there. Nobody would ever want to work with them.
I think there's a crap load of people on Hollywood Boulevard who have guns on them every day, and I think most of those people just go home and go to sleep at night.
And you know what? And here's the funniest thing. You are exactly right. And I think that the ones who the cops are jumping out on are the ones who just like have nothing to do with any of that shit. And they just picking, again, they're just riding around in cars. They don't know what the fuck they're looking at. They say, okay, that guy looks suspicious, and jump out on him. But, 99% of the time, somebody who's just like jaywalking in the middle of the street or doing something, being loud, isn't going to have a gun on them for that very reason, because they don't want to be the target. But they do it anyway. They violate so many rights out there. They pull over so many cars for the most bullshit reasons. They don't follow any procedures. Like I said, if they follow procedures, I go about my business. I don't care. Do what you got to do. But when you're doing all this extra, when you're violating rights, when that kid afterwards is pissed off, when that person is rattled, when they can't drive away for 45 minutes because they're so hurt, when they're standing there hurt, when they're standing there, when I seen grown men fucking cry, grown-ass man sitting in front of his car, sitting in a car, in the passenger seat. The car was parked 1 foot in a red. 1 foot. They come, they blocked off the street, back up, supervisors pulled them out of the car, 6 people surround them because the car was parked 1 foot in the red. What the fuck are we doing here? This wasn't a kid either. This is like somebody my age.
Was the car his home?
No, he was there with his girl, his wife, picking up some fucking ice cream.
Because I've seen him take people's cars that they live in with everything they own inside of them, just for not being tagged and being parked somewhere. So foul. How can you do that?
Man, it's heartless.
What kind of person could do that for their job? I'll just be like, nah, fire me then. Fuck it. I'm not doing it. If they all declined to do fucked up shit, they wouldn't be able to force them to do fucked up shit. That's technically what a union's supposed to be for. Not to let you murder and get off and do all kinds of crazy illegal shit and get off. It's to protect you from having to do terrible shit. You know what I mean?
I think that the thing is, the police have a lot of discretion in the things they can do. And when you have that discretion, you should use it. I've seen this one cop, what's his name, Ocaro. He said, he pulls people over. He hasn't given anybody a ticket in 3 years. He has the discretion. He says, I'd rather educate somebody before sticking them with the 2 other.
How does he deal with his quotas then?
So we actually talked about that, and he says there aren't any quotas, by the way. And I said to him, okay, so let's say there's not quotas. As with any job, you're still going to have some sort of yeah, well, let's say you're going to have some sort of productivity. I'm not going to say requirement or expectation. So it's like, yeah, there may not be any official quotas, but at the same time, you're going to have to show them some sort of productivity. He actually didn't disagree with that, but we didn't really get into it with that. But my thing is, if you have that discretion, why aren't you using it? Like, if you have the discretion to not tow somebody's car and they're being cooperative and you see that they don't have much to work with, like, why would you?
Because these pigs are brutal savages. They don't give a fuck. That's what I think anyway.
Yeah. I mean, listen. The funny thing is, I think most people see me and they probably feel like, I'm like hardcore. My language would be hardcore against the cops or whatever. And I feel very restrained. Like, me personally, I've never called a cop a pig. It'd be hard for me to do that, only because it's just hard for me to talk that way about people just in general. But at the same time, I see what they do. And I think some of these cops are just total pieces of shit. And I'll tell them they're pieces of shit. You're a fucking piece of shit. As a person, you're a piece of shit. What you're doing, the way you're targeting black people, you're a piece of shit. When I see some cop, you pull over, you stop a kid walking down the street because you thought he was smoking weed. You put him against the wall, handcuff him, and search him because you thought he was smoking weed. And then you take the cuffs off. He gets into his car. He drives a half a block and you pull him over again and handcuff him again. You're a piece of shit. What the fuck are you doing? And so, I'm under no illusion that some of these people are how do I put it, deeply flawed, deeply flawed. And there's something about the profession that I think draws a certain percentage of them.
Yeah. I don't know. I had a philosophical, moral, whatever kind of dilemma a while back about calling them pigs because one of my friends has two pet pigs amongst other animals, and they so cool and so smart, and they're friendly. So I was like, I stopped eating pork when I met them too. It just seemed wrong. But then I thought I was listening to this documentary with some Panthers, old school Black Panthers, and they were talking about why specifically back in the day they started calling the cops pigs. And it wasn't because of filthiness or anything like that. It was because pigs were animals that shouldn't be feared.
Well, here's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has their own experiences with the cops.
Yeah.
Right? I've been arrested. I've sat in a room with a DEA agent. You roll up his sleeve and he got a swastika on his arm. And when I was arrested, they drove me around for an hour playing the theme to Bad Boys. So I have my gripes with them too. So I don't, while I may not use certain terms, I will never knock another person for doing it because I don't know what they did to you. I don't know what they did to your family. Everybody has their own experiences. You have a right to call them. It's your First Amendment right. You exercise that shit. But, like I said, for me personally, another reason I try to show restraint is because, again, I think that I would say the
It's
average
smarter.
cop here. Well, yeah, I think when you think from looking at my videos, you probably think like I spend my time yelling at cops. I would say 90% of the time, not a word is even said. Even if I know I'm going to file a complaint, there's a lot of nonverbal shit. There may be a lot of me staring them down, a lot of me shaking my heads at them, and as we cross each other's paths when I'm walking over to those kids to interview them, I may get into their face and stare them down a little bit. You'll never see that on video. It just doesn't come across. But at the same time, it's generally pretty quiet. Even when they know they fucked up, they know they're getting written up. And they just, there might even be a head nod, like whatever. I think for me personally, it's just helpful. It's helpful in the sense that, when you're filing these complaints, I don't want to make it totally about me. It's got to be about the cops, about what they did, and not about me and me screaming at them post-stop. It happens. Usually when I scream at them, it's for two reasons. It's I ask for their name, they're not going to give it to me, or they refuse to put their mask on and I tell them to, or something like that. Or if it's a sober top, I might have something to say. You can't help it. It's like, it's hard for me to bite my tongue. But at the end of the day, it's helpful for me just to keep my head and try to keep it professional. They know what's up. No cop until last week has ever had to say to me, hey, stand back behind this line. They know. I don't interfere. There are other people out there who do that. They come out there and they're screaming stuff. That's just not me. Because of that, I think cops show me a certain respect too. They might not like me, but I think most of them respect me.
That's good though. I mean, you've enlightened me a lot about, like, because I would think report the cops, I'll threaten them, but then in the end, what good is it going to do? Nothing's going to come of it. But then you show there's a logic behind it. You know what I mean? Getting them verified complaints.
Listen, they can affect their money when it comes time when they're trying to move up, one rank, and they see somebody has 5 complaints even for bullshit reasons, and they could choose him or her, another person. Who are they going to choose? Even though there's small little things. So this I'll tell you this: they may act like it's no big deal, but the way they act, they know it's a big deal. They get, honestly, some of these cops, they get straight up scared when they know they're getting written up, or they'll come up to me afterwards trying to fucking explain themselves. There's a real power dynamic flip, and I'm fine with that. You come explain yourself to me.
Yeah, I mean, I love what you do. That's why I thought it was so important to have you come on and explain how to do this to the people who want to hear it. Because, like, I needed to hear it because I didn't know there was any logic behind it. Because
what I think I'm going to do?
What?
I'm going to outline, like, things that people should actually look for on stops. Like, when you get to the stop, what should you look for? When you know what you should look for to file a complaint. what you should do, how you should go about filing the complaint, and just different processes like that can help people, just do the process. Because I think I had somebody come up to me one day, like, "Hey, William," and they recognized me from a protest or whatever. And she's like, "Yeah, I follow you on Twitter and I saw what you were doing." And she said, "It'd be helpful if you would do something like that." And I never get around to it because I'm just, I have a million different things that are going on. But I think it would be important if I put something together to show what to look for a complaint, how to file complaints.
Yeah.
And get people started with it, and hopefully it'll encourage people. Maybe some people will go out one night and say on their own, let's just go and go to an area and just turn on a scanner and listen for stops and show up at stops and tape. Hopefully some people will do it. If I'll walk people through it, I'll come out there and show them how to do it, what I look for, things like that.
Cool, man. It was awesome. I learned some stuff today too, which is always good.
I know I kind of ramble on stuff. Hopefully it wasn't too incoherent.
No, I thought it was awesome. I thought it was really informative, and I really appreciate it. And if you ever want to come back on and do a second round one day in the future, you're always welcome.
Anytime, man. I could talk forever.
That's awesome. You're always welcome. I mean that. It's not just a platitude I say to everybody. I mean, you're always welcome on any show we got. Just let me know.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Listen, I'm trying to create some sort of change, right? I just don't want to be I feel like a lot of this shit is done is performative. It's not about me. I don't give a fuck about me. I'm not on there trying to show my face and stuff and just make a big show of it. But I do want to fucking, something has to change. I just know that I might not have all the answers, but I know I will make sure something is going to change here. Something will. And I just hope other people will join in with it.
Definitely. That's why I try to influence people to film the police themselves. And I love it when I'm out there and there's someone else filming along with me.
Hey, one time we should go out there together.
Yeah, definitely. I'm always around. Just if I'm not working and you're not working, we should connect up on that. It might be fun. I'll try to keep it toned down to keep everybody safe. Because, a lot of times my goal is to distract the attention, because a lot of times there's homeless people that don't have anything. So I know the police can be brutal with them. So it's like, pay attention to me, the fool cursing you out, threatening you, telling you to kill yourself, and less attention to hurting that person,
And it's funny because they damn sure will pay attention to you. I was actually going to post a thread tonight about one sergeant, I'm filming a scene and he's just spending his whole time focusing on me. I'm telling him, focus over there. I'm not your fucking job. Focus across over there. But that's what you're dealing with. But that works, though. Again,
they call cops just for me. There'll be a whole nother set of cops come just to have to deal with me. You've probably seen it before. It's just what they do. It's ridiculous. But whatever.
That's how you should take pride in that, man. I would.
Yeah, well, anyway, thanks, William. I want you, before we go, to just shout out all your social media where people can go to follow you or subscribe to you or whatever they need to do. And then we're going to be out.
I'm primarily on Twitter at Film the Police LA. I guess I'm on Instagram technically, but I can't keep up with everything. It's hard to do Twitter alone and just take care of all the other stuff. Maybe one day I'll get help with it.
So that's Film the Police LA, primarily on Twitter, but he is on Instagram, and one day he might get into it.
And one day I'll be on TikTok and everything else, and one day I'll actually have stuff filled out on Instagram. But really, if I'm posting something, it's just really on Twitter for now.
Yeah, but I recommend you follow him and pay attention and learn something, and let's all try to make these police pay. I almost said the other P word. So thanks everybody for listening. I'm shutting off the Twitch streams now.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, you can stay 1 second.